I can't believe I'm even sharing this story, but I need to know, was I wrong for what I did? Did I go too far? Or did those entitled jerks get exactly what they deserved? You tell me. Imagine being a freshman in college, finally getting a taste of independence, only to have it all shattered because of something you can't change. Imagine being publicly shamed, ridiculed, and ostracized, not for your actions but for your height. That's what happened to me. And if you think I just took it lying down, you're in for a shock. It all started the summer before my freshman year. I was ecstatic, finally accepted into my dream university. I'm a little person, something I've lived with my entire life. And while it's brought its challenges, I've always faced them head-on. I've never let my height define me, and I certainly wasn't going to let it stop me from having the full college experience. My parents, bless their hearts, were incredibly supportive. They helped me find an apartment just off campus, knowing that dorm life might present some accessibility issues. It was a perfect little place, a short walk from classes, and I even managed to find a used car that had been modified with pedal extenders, giving me a newfound sense of freedom. I was ready. I spent weeks decorating my apartment, buying textbooks, and mentally preparing myself for the academic rigor. I was particularly excited about my intro to psychology class, taught by the renowned Professor Albright. Psychology had always fascinated me, and I was eager to delve deeper into the human mind. The first week of classes went by smoothly. I navigated the campus like a pro, made a few casual acquaintances in my lectures, and even found my favorite coffee shop. Everything was falling into place. I felt a sense of belonging, a feeling I hadn't always experienced in high school. But then came the second week, and with it, the fateful group project assignment in Professor Albright's class. Professor Albright, a stern but fair woman, announced that we would be divided into groups of 4 for a semester-long research project. She emphasized the importance of teamwork and warned us against freeriders. My heart sank a little. Group projects had always been a source of anxiety for me. Not because I was a bad student. Quite the opposite, I was a diligent and committed worker. But because of the social dynamics. Sometimes, people saw my height as a limitation, an excuse to exclude me or assume I couldn't pull my weight. I hoped college would be different. When the groups were announced, I found myself with 3 other students, Chad, Tiffany, and Brittany. Chad was a towering athletic guy, always with a smirk on his face. Tiffany and Brittany were 2 impossibly glamorous girls, seemingly glued at the hip, constantly whispering and giggling. From the moment our names were called, I could feel their eyes on me. Not in a curious way, but in a way that felt like judgment. They exchanged glances, and I could almost hear their silent conversation. "Oh great, we got him." I tried to brush it off. First impressions aren't everything, right? I extended my hand, offering a polite, "Hi, I'm my name. Looking forward to working with you all." Chad barely acknowledged me, giving a curt nod. Tiffany and Brittany offered a weak, dismissive smile. It was clear from the start that this wasn't going to be a walk in the park. We scheduled our first meeting for later that week at the campus library. I arrived a few minutes early, eager to discuss ideas and get a head start. Chad, Tiffany, and Brittany strolled in about 15 minutes late, chattering loudly and completely ignoring my presence. They plopped down at a large table, sprawling their bags and laptops, leaving me a small corner. I cleared my throat, trying to get their attention. "So about the project?" I started, but Chad cut me off. "Look, we'll handle the bulk of it. You can just do the research or something," he said, not even looking at me, but rather at Tiffany and Brittany, who both snickered. My blood ran cold. "Excuse me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "What makes you think I can't contribute equally?" Tiffany, with a condescending tone, piped up. "Oh, come on. We just figured, with your situation, it might be harder for you to, present or do the heavier lifting." Brittany nodded in agreement. I was furious, but I knew blowing up wouldn't help. I took a deep breath. My situation has absolutely no bearing on my intellectual capabilities or my ability to contribute to this project. I expect to be treated as an equal member of this group. They just rolled their eyes. Chad, ever the leader of this particular pack of bullies, leaned back in his chair. "Whatever, midget. Just make yourself useful. We'll tell you what to do." The word hung in the air, thick with contempt. My heart pounded. I felt a wave of humiliation wash over me. I wanted to scream, to storm out, but I knew I couldn't. This project was a significant portion of my grade. I swallowed my pride, and for the next few weeks, I tried my best to work with them. I did all the research they assigned me, compiled notes, and even drafted entire sections of the paper. But every meeting was a barrage of passive-aggressive remarks, condescending looks, and outright dismissal. They would talk over me, ignore my suggestions, and sometimes even pretend I wasn't there. They refused to let me present any part of the project, insisting that it would distract from their presentation. "No offense," Tiffany said once, "but people might not take us seriously if you're up there trying to reach the mic." Brittany giggled. Chad just smirked. The humiliation was constant, a dull ache that never went away. I started dreading our group meetings, my anxiety skyrocketing before each one. I ate lunch alone, spent evenings in the library trying to avoid them, and even started taking longer routes to classes just to steer clear of their usual haunts. I knew I needed to do something, but what? Complaining to Professor Albright felt like tattling, and I worried she wouldn't take it seriously, or worse, that it would reflect poorly on me. I considered confronting them directly, but their numbers and their ingrained prejudice felt insurmountable. I felt trapped, and the constant badgering was chipping away at my confidence, making me question myself, something I had rarely done before. I began to withdraw, even from my other classes, feeling a cloud of despair settling over me. I'd always been a strong, independent person, but their relentless cruelty was starting to break me. I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted them to see me as a person, not as a spectacle. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I was being relentlessly targeted and humiliated by my group members, all because I'm a little person. They were actively sabotaging my academic success and making my college experience a living hell. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone to the professor? Would you have tried to confront them again? Or would you have found a different way to make them pay for their cruelty? I'm genuinely curious to know what you would have done, because what I did next, well, it was a bit extreme. The breaking point came during our final practice presentation, a week before the actual submission. We were in a small study room, and I had meticulously prepared my section, despite their objections. I had even brought a small stool, just in case, though I was perfectly capable of speaking from the floor. As I started to speak, Chad interrupted me. "Seriously? Are you going to stand on that little stool for the real thing? It's going to look ridiculous. We can't have that." Tiffany and Brittany burst into laughter. "Yeah," Brittany added, "Professor Albright will think it's a joke. Just let Chad present your part, it'll be fine." My voice trembled as I tried to regain control. "No. I'm presenting my part. I've worked just as hard as everyone else, and I deserve to present my research." Chad, with a sneer, physically pushed my stool away with his foot, sending it clattering. "Listen, shorty, we're doing this our way. You can sit there and look pretty, or you can just shut up." That was it. The dam broke. All the pent-up frustration, humiliation, and anger boiled over. My vision blurred, and my hands clenched into fists. I looked at their smug, arrogant faces, and a cold, calculated rage settled over me. They wanted to humiliate me? They wanted to dismiss me? Fine. Two can play at that game. I stood up slowly, deliberately. My voice was dangerously calm. "Fine," I said, looking directly at Chad. "If that's how you want to play it." I walked out of the study room, leaving them stunned and confused. They probably thought I was finally giving up. They were wrong. I spent the next few days putting my plan into action. It was risky, I knew, but I was beyond caring. I was tired of being the victim. The first thing I did was go to Professor Albright during her office hours. I explained calmly and clearly how Chad, Tiffany, and Brittany had been treating me, providing specific examples of their verbal abuse and exclusion. The room went silent. You could literally hear a pin drop. Chad, Tiffany, and Brittany's faces went from pale to scarlet. They were absolutely mortified. The entire class, including Professor Albright, was staring at me, then at them. But that wasn't the end of it. The next part of my plan unfolded after class. I walked up to Professor Albright and quietly handed her a USB drive. "Professor," I said, "I have some additional evidence regarding my group's conduct." She took the drive, her eyebrows raised. What was on that drive? Audio recordings. Every single one of our group meetings, from the very first, where they called me midget and dismissed my contributions, to the last, where Chad pushed my stool and told me to shut up. Mark had helped me set up a discreet recording device. I had captured everything. The insults, the condescension, the outright refusal to acknowledge me as an equal, the sheer malice in their voices. The fallout was swift and severe. Professor Albright reviewed the recordings, and within a day Chad, Tiffany, and Brittany were called into her office. I don't know exactly what happened in there, but I heard whispers. They were reprimanded, given failing grades on the group project, and apparently had their names flagged for disciplinary action with the university. I later found out that their parents were contacted, and their scholarships were put under review. The public shaming they had inflicted on me was nothing compared to the private and public humiliation they now faced. Chad, Tiffany, and Brittany became pariahs on campus. No one wanted to be associated with them. Their reputations were ruined. They tried to avoid me, but I would occasionally catch their desperate, hateful glares. It was a small victory, but it was mine. The rest of my freshman year was a completely different experience. Students who had been witness to the presentation, and those who heard about the recordings, started treating me with respect, even admiration. I made new friends, genuine friends, who saw me for who I am, not for my height. I excelled in my classes, my confidence soaring. It wasn't about revenge, not entirely. It was about standing up for myself, about showing them that I wouldn't be silenced or diminished. It was about proving that my worth isn't measured in inches. So I ask you again, was I wrong? Did I go too far, or did those bullies get what they deserved? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this whole messy situation. Like this video if you were on my side and think I did the right thing. Subscribe for more stories like this, where people stand up to injustice. And share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.